Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly break down how Guardiola won the tactical battle over Zidane to help Manchester City claim a vital away victory against Real Madrid. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Real Madrid in a 4-3-3, and we ended up seeing Manchester City shift to a 4-4-1-1. So in this video, we're going to break down how City looked to stifle Madrid's attack and where they were able to exploit Madrid's backline. So when we assess Manchester City's attacking structure, what should be noted is obviously Sergio Aguero not playing. And the reason why Guardiola went for Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne is based off the fact that Real Madrid's center backs are much comfortable when they are proactive and stepping into the central forwards, dropping off a bit deeper. Casemiro is also included in that. So rather than having Aguero occupy that space to play into the hands of Ramos and Varane, he went with Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, who could pop up into various positions. And when they did do that, you had Gabriel Jesus occupying those center backs. And you could see that it was a situation that favored the Real Madrid center backs. But here with De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva in those central zones, they dropped off into pockets of space to overload the center of the pitch. But more importantly here, they operated as false forwards. You had De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva looking to drop off into pockets of space when Real Madrid were in their 4-5-1. So whether it be in between Vinicius and Valverde, Isco and Modric and Casemiro, or Casemiro and Valverde, you would see De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva drop off into that space. We wouldn't have Ramos and Varane dropping off into those areas, so they weren't marking anyone, but they did have to be wary of the positioning of Mahrez and Gabriel Jesus. You had Mahrez on that touchline looking to break across Ferland Mendy or dart across him, but in that opening half, we often saw Mahrez drop off a bit deeper and Ferland Mendy stuck tight to him. Nonetheless, that threat was there, but the key player here was Gabriel Jesus, because his key role was to either run across Carvajal or break in behind him to get on the ball when De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva received the ball between the lines. That was how Manchester City looked to approach the game, and it caused Real Madrid several problems. Nonetheless, Real Madrid tried to combat that by pressing high. Nonetheless, City were able to create their best chances when they had the false forwards in De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva dropping off a bit deeper, where Mahrez and Jesus look to break beyond or isolate their fullbacks. When we look to the first example, what we end up seeing here is that we have Modric pressing Benjamin Mendy, and he drops the ball off to Rodri picking it up. We should have Valverde stepping into the path of Rodri, but he doesn't. And what Rodri is able to do here is that he slides the ball between Vinicius and Valverde for Bernardo Silva dropping off a bit deeper. Bernardo Silva is able to turn and slide the ball out to Mahrez ahead of Ferland Mendy, but Mahrez drops the ball off to Walker pushing forward. And when Walker gets on the ball, he's able to split Isco, Valverde, and Modric and Casemiro to find Kevin De Bruyne between the lines. De Bruyne receives the ball between the lines and he ends up splitting Varane and Carvajal to find Gabriel Jesus breaking in towards goal, but he fires his effort at Courtois, who does push it away. But in that sequence, you see Bernardo Silva dropping off into a pocket of space, and then we also see Kevin De Bruyne dropping off into a pocket of space to get the ball in advanced positions with Jesus running off Carvajal, and that should have led to a Manchester City opener. So in that 4-4-1-1, what we end up seeing here is we have Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva up front, and we had Gabriel Jesus out on the left-hand side. What we ended up seeing here is that City did look to press from the front. It was an energetic front four, and they had the base of Gundogan and Rodri protecting the back four. So what we ended up seeing here is that we had Bernardo Silva stepping out to the center backs, and that would see Kevin De Bruyne shift out into the path of Casemiro. And then you have the midfield battle set. Initially, it was Rodri against Modric, and you would see Gundogan against Valverde. So you had that midfield battle set, but there were times where we did have Kevin De Bruyne step out into the path of the center backs as well. That is when you want Bernardo Silva to step out and close down Casemiro, but there were occasions where they both looked to step forward and close down the center backs. So you have those two closing down the center backs. You're expecting the wider players to close down the Real Madrid fullbacks, but then you have Casemiro dropping off a bit deeper. That is one of the issues that you can encounter if you have your highest midfielders stepping out to the center backs. But we often saw either Rodri or Gundogan looking to shift out into the path of Casemiro to close him down. However, there were ways that Manchester City could avoid the fact that they would be leaving a Real Madrid midfielder free in the central zone. You had Rodri stepping to Modric, dropping off deeper, and you had Gundogan pushing higher on Casemiro. You would have the wider players looking to push out to close down the fullbacks, and in this situation, if Valverde was free, then you'd have Jesus drop off into the path of Valverde. If the ball was shifted out into the path of Carvajal, then you could have Jesus looking to recover, or you would have Benjamin Mendy stepping forward to close down that option. Nonetheless, if they weren't pressing that high, they were dropping off into two banks of four, with Kevin De Bruyne sitting ahead of Casemiro unless they were pressing forward. And in those two banks of four, they comfortably coped well. The issue being that once again, Real Madrid struggled to get service into Karim Benzema. When we look at the movement of their players, you have Isco looking to drop away from Benjamin Mendy, sometimes shifting out into his own zone, and sometimes floating around across the pitch, but not offering a direct threat to the Manchester City left back, who is either able to tuck in a bit narrow, or he would be tasked with dealing with Carvajal. So with Isco drifting into different positions from that right-hand side, we had Vinicius holding the touchline and looking to run at Kyle Walker from the left. He was an outlet for Real Madrid to constantly switch balls out to, but the issue here was that he couldn't beat Kyle Walker 1v1, and we often had Riyad Mahrez dropping off a bit deeper to provide cover for his right back. In midfield, Modric was dropping off deeper as well to get the ball, and there were times where he was pushing forward, but he was positioning himself ahead of Laporte. And when you look to the left-hand side, we didn't see much of Fede Valverde offering much of a threat going forward, and you had Casemiro marked out of the game. When Modric did drop off a bit deeper to get on the ball, City were able to cope with that as well. What we'd end up seeing there is that we would have Jesus stepping out into the path of Modric. Carvajal would be pushed off a bit higher, so we would see Mendy shift out into that zone. And we would see Gundogan step into the path of Casemiro with De Bruyne looking to close down Varane. 20 minutes into that game, we ended up seeing Guardiola shift Gundogan and Rodri, and that was so that we could have Gundogan step out into the path of Casemiro to ensure that Casemiro couldn't get on the ball when they dropped off into that 3v2, and that's when we would see a Rodri drop off to close down Luka Modric. And in that instance, like I said, if Valverde was the spare man, we would simply have Riyad Mahrez shift over to close him down, and if the ball got shifted out into the path of Mendy, Mahrez would come across, and then we would see the Manchester City markers get back into their base positions. So that was how City were able to stifle Real Madrid from creating quality chances, combined with their attacking structure flaws, given the fact they don't have players getting service into Benzema or much production in between the lines. So when we look to the second half, we were expecting Zidane to try to find a way to shift things. Nevertheless, it was City who were getting the better of Real Madrid starting that half. Initially, we had individual runs from Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, ending with the ball being shifted out to Riyad Mahrez, who was getting 1v1 with Mendy. The first time he was able to bend an effort inches wide of the net. The second time he faked cutting centrally and then cut back out towards the byline to fire a shot ahead of Varane to force Courtois into a save. And shortly after that, Mahrez wasted another golden opportunity that he should have converted. This time we witnessed the perfect Guardiola chance that stems through his overall setup. We have Gundogan dropping off away from Modric to receive a splitting pass from Fernandinho that bypassed Valverde and Benzema. And when Gundogan gets the ball, he locates Bernardo Silva dropping off deeper towards the halfway line on the left-hand side. And he also locates Kevin De Bruyne dropping off in between Casemiro and Vinicius. So you have De Bruyne dropping off and Bernardo dropping off, and then you see Jesus shifting into a position in between Carvajal and Varane, and you have Mahrez in between Mendy and Ramos. But when we look to Mahrez's side, we don't have Mendy shifting tighter towards Mahrez, and we don't have Ramos identifying Mahrez looking to run in behind. So Gundogan clips a simple ball over the top, Mahrez breaks in beyond into right half space, but he fires a tail same effort on goal. But that does highlight City's overall shape. You have De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva dropping off deeper, and then you have Jesus and Mahrez getting into goal side positions ahead of the fullbacks and looking to break beyond. Nevertheless, we did see some sort of shift from Zidane following those chances. We had Isco shifting into a more of a right central midfield zone and Valverde operating the wider position to ensure that Benjamin Mendy couldn't get forward. And when we had Isco dropping off into those deeper positions and floating across the pitch, Real Madrid did a better job of maintaining possession. Nevertheless, their best chances in that second half stemmed from Manchester City defensive mistakes. However, when both managers turned to their bench, we did see a shift in the game. We had Bale come on for Vinicius, and we ended up seeing Raheem Sterling replace Bernardo Silva, which pushed Jesus up front and Sterling to the left. We ended up seeing Kevin De Bruyne begin to receive the ball to either side of Casemiro, but as that game did continue, we saw more of De Bruyne's powerful running. We had Sterling now offering a direct threat towards Carvajal, and we ended up seeing City push more men forward to get into better positions. When we look to the build-up to their equalizing goal, the difference here was that we had Gundogan dropping off a bit deeper, and this time he's able to locate Sterling running off Carvajal into the left channel rather than running across him. So we have the ball being clipped over there, and Varane does cover, and eventually the goal does lead to Kevin De Bruyne clipping the ball over Ramos, and we see Jesus knotted in. But we have Sterling making that run, which was a bit different to what we saw from Gabriel Jesus, and that was impactful. Shortly after that, we had a Kevin De Bruyne powerful run following Gabriel Jesus tracking back to win the ball, and Kevin De Bruyne's persistence to push forward and then win the ball back from Casemiro saw him slide the ball out to Riyad Mahrez, who once again isolated Mendy and was able to deliver a cross into Gabriel Jesus' goal side of Varane, and he should do better there, but he nods his effort over the net. And when we look to the build-up to City's winner, again, another breakdown from Real Madrid, but it highlights the shift in Guardiola's tactics. We had Fernandinho being able to push forward as Benzema didn't look to press, and what we see Fernandinho do here is that he slides the ball across Benzema into the path of Rodri. We have Isco ahead of Gundogan, but we have Modric near the center backs and not looking to step into the path of Rodri, which allows him to slide the ball out to Sterling, who's able to go 1v1 with Carvajal. We never had Gabriel Jesus go 1v1 with Carvajal, and when Sterling took him on, he was able to blitz by him on the outside, and he forced Carvajal to concede the penalty that Kevin De Bruyne did convert. When you break down the game as a whole, Guardiola won the tactical battle here convincingly. He identified a legitimate route to goal with the false forwards that allowed Gabriel Jesus and Mahrez to break him behind. Jesus was prominent in the first half, and we ended up seeing more of Mahrez in the second half, and they were able to stifle Real Madrid with their pressing from the front and their organized shape. And when we move to the second half, even when Real Madrid did go ahead, he was able to shift the game with his substitution by bringing on Raheem Sterling, and Sterling played a key role in those two goals, combined with the key players also shining in De Bruyne and Jesus. And now Manchester City should be favorites to advance to the quarterfinal with their 2 away goals. But let me know what you guys think. Can Real Madrid turn this tie around even with the lack of production up front? And do you think Guardiola should shift his tactics for the second leg? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And once again, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.